and Andy Burcham. And we got some innovation to talk about when it comes to football and other things. Dr. Michael Zabala joins us. He is medical engineering lab director at Auburn University, and he has a company called Exo Armor. Michael, thanks for being with us. And I'm going to let Stan and Andy get into the details, but first, give us the layman's version. I've looked at your website. Exo Armor is pretty innovative when it comes to athletic support, injury treatment, that kind of thing.
Sure. So what we do is we combine 3D scanning available on our app, available to download on a smartphone, with 3D printing, which allows us to generate perfectly custom pads for athletes.
Michael, I was in the training room 2 days ago, and they showed me the 3D printer that's there. Kind of gave me a little bit of told me how it works. It's fascinating how it all comes about, because they scan, they then send it to you. You send the program basically to the printer.
Right.
And the next thing you know, in an hour or two or maybe three, the pad that Stan has on his shoulder right now is finished, right?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. They have the 3D printer on site here in Auburn in the athletics complex. They have the app. They scan their athlete. Takes about 5 seconds. That's submitted, goes to the cloud. We take it off, process it in 5 minutes, and send the print job back to the printer remotely. And depending on what's printed, the small stuff can be as little as 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The shoulders are probably going to be more like an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe 2.5. But it's pretty quick, and it comes out right there immediately for them to pop off, put some padding on it, and give it to the player.
And guys, I was chosen to be the guinea pig of the bunch and do this, and I can verify I am very elementary when it comes to electronics, IT type of stuff, and it's very simple. I'm actually wearing one for those listening right now. I'm wearing my shoulder guard, and Michael sent me the link, and literally all you do is click on the link, and you scan basically the area, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist because I can do it. And you send them basically a picture, and he emails back verifying we got it, looks great, we'll have it for you, and boom. And I want to ask you this. We were just talking before we came on. You said feasibly if an injury occurs, maybe early in a game, first quarter, you could have something done by third or fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Part of what we've done in the lab here at Auburn, in the biomechanical engineering lab, is we've figured out how to print stuff really, really fast and really, really strong. And both of those you need in order to be able to produce quickly for example, like an in-game scenario like you've described. So yes, foreseeably that's something we could do. Not everything. Some things do take longer, but there are items that we can do quick enough to make that happen.
Now, without getting into the contents of this, it feels like a hardcore plastic type of thing. Can you describe a little bit about?
It is basic. It's basically plastic, and essentially what we're doing is you're talking about scanning your shoulder, and what we get is essentially a three-dimensional picture. So it's a three-dimensional surface of your shoulder from your phone. It uses same Face ID technology, and then we take that and we use that surface to generate what's called a model, and then that 3D prints this plastic shell out. And then what the trainers will do is they'll tell us, okay, we want to use 8 millimeter thick shock shield, or we want to use 3 millimeter thick EVA foam, and we offset that shell to account for that foam thickness, and so now it still conforms perfectly to your shoulder. So that's what we did there. You got the plastic shell, you got, in this case, EVA foam, and it still contours to all of your shoulder.
Michael, what are you scanning on an Auburn student athlete? I mean, obviously shoulder, but what else?
Well, we've done lower back, we've done ribs, we've done lots of hands, we've done forearms, shoulders, obviously. Essentially, the way I describe it is if you can scan it, we can cover it.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. We have limitations on the size of what the 3D printer can do. Our standard printers do 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, but there's one that's bigger than that, can do 1 foot by 1 foot by 2 feet. So foreseeably, you can make some pretty large stuff. I think the largest guard we ever made was for the lower back of a linebacker in another SEC school. But
right.
But yeah, we can do all sorts of stuff.
So it's available here at Auburn and other colleges.
Right.
Is it available to the general public, Michael?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it actually is. So we have printers here at Auburn, at Clemson, and West Virginia, and we're expanding that. But we've just now started offering to high schools. We actually sent some Exo Armor out to a high school in Georgia this week, and they were on ESPN last night. So we're pretty excited about that. We can make stuff here in Auburn and send it out, just like we did here for Stan, but we can also access 3D printers in high schools, because nowadays lots of high schools I come from Hoover High School in Birmingham, and they've got 3D printers with their engineering program. So those printers are already out there, and we can communicate with them, and foreseeably we could do with them what we're doing at Auburn.
I think my high school barely had a math department. Is this more for prevention, protection, or therapy?
Yes.
Okay.
Is the answer. We got started with response to injury. And so you think back Anthony Schwartz's hand. Anthony was the first injury we ever covered. Then next was Seth Williams. I actually saw Seth here a minute ago.
Seth will be up here later on.
Okay, good. So that's how we got our start. But we feel like there's a lot of potential for prevention, because if you consider, for example, a running back, and if they could have these low-profile protective guards underneath their shoulder pads, now that guard is providing extra cushion, but it's also constraining these joints, for example, the AC joints, common injury. So we believe you're going to get more carries and you're going to last longer throughout the season, and it is so low profile enough that it doesn't really affect the shoulder pad fit.
Question for you. You know, a lot of talk over the last several years is the concussion. Is there something maybe in the future of this being a more of a brace for the helmets at all?
Well, there is some work being done for helmets for scanning and doing the high contour fit. We honestly kind of avoid it. Helmets are pretty highly regulated, and there's a lot of work being done in it. Believe it or not, shoulders are not really so much regulated, shoulder pads and other worn gear. So we've more or less avoided the helmet, but there is work being done by that. And I know the NFL is interested in it, getting a high contour fit within the helmet, and there are options that exist out there for that, but we just haven't done it.
Michael, what was the spark for this? When did you come up with this idea? What was it?
Well, I have to give credit to Robbie Stewart and Dr. Michael Goodlett. So
Okay.
Robbie Stewart's my next door neighbor, and he's kind enough to share his fence with me.
Literally.
Okay. Literally. So our kids hop the fence and play together. But he called me back in 2019, and he said, "Hey, I got this wide receiver with this hand injury. Can you make him something?" And at the time, we still do, but it's a $25,000 3D scanner in my lab, and so we brought Anthony. We brought Anthony in. We scanned him. We 3D printed him something. They bolted it to wrist guard, and then he took it out in first play, reversed 57 yards for a touchdown against Texas A&M. So that's how we got our start. And then it was when we figured out that we don't no longer need this fancy scanner. We don't need him to come in, and we can do it remotely. We did some work for West Virginia. And so it was kind of a slow process if you think about it like that, but it was just a combination of me just happening to move in next to Robbie, working with Dr. Goodlett, who was able to communicate to Robbie the gear we had in the lab, and then the equipment that I had in the lab that was actually able to make it happen.
Before we let you go, trainers, coaches, athletes out there who may want to learn more, how do they learn more about this?
Yeah, thanks for asking. If you go to our website, it's exoarmortech.com. We have a form submission that you can submit. You can give your email address and put a little description in there. We've been receiving submissions like that. That's how we got put in touch with this high school in Georgia this last week. So that's by far the best way to get in touch with us.
exoarmortech.com.
That's right.
All right, Dr. Michael Zabala, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Very interesting story and something we can watch develop. It's nice to see the technology come into play more and more as it really is. We appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, guys. War Eagle.
War Eagle.